It's a new day, and that means new stories from Ocean Story. Let's begin. I am now 33 years old, and I have some difficulties. After giving birth to a baby, I don't know why, but I have a sudden mood to eat a lot of sweets. My boyfriend often runs to the store to bring me something sweet. That week, my husband Liam came back from the store once again. I smelled a very strange odor on him. It turned out that it was the smell of cigarettes he was smoking. I asked my husband to stop smelling like smoke when he was around me because it was just unbearable. I can smell tobacco with every breath I take. My boyfriend said he doesn't smoke many times a day, and I think he stinks. But I continued to stand my ground, saying that I smell a very disgusting odor and don't want to breathe it anymore. Liam said I understood and would fix it, and so began our story, which lasted for several weeks. The next day, I was sitting on the couch watching the show. When Liam sat down with me, it took no more than 20 seconds for me to smell the pungent smell of Liam's smoke. I asked him, "How long have you been smoking?" Liam replied, "Half an hour ago. Why? It's very strange because I can smell you stinking. Like you smoked 2 minutes ago and came to me." Liam said that because you're coming off a pregnancy, you're supposed to smell different things. Because after I smoked, I ate gum and wore perfume to avoid stinking. If you smell smoke, it's not possible. I said to him, "Liam, how can you say it's not possible if I can smell this stench right now?" My husband just shrugged. I could not stand it and went to the kitchen to open the window. After all, enduring that stench is like smelling dog shit. When I went to bed with Liam that night, I told him, "You should stop smoking, at least for the time I'm having this acute sensation." Liam said I was doing his best to keep me from smelling the stench of cigarettes. He even started changing his clothes after he smoked. Liam asked me, "Do you really smell a strong odor? Or do you just want to force me to stop smoking?" I told him, "I don't like the smell of you after you smoked. I'm not forcing you to quit like that." My husband said he would try to reduce the number of times he smokes. I thanked him for that and we went to bed. Although honestly, I could smell his cigarettes even in bed. I dread to think what would happen if Liam smoked cigars instead of regular cigarettes. 2 days later, my husband came into the living room when I was with the baby. From Liam's first steps, I could smell it. I said, "Liam, are you up to your old tricks again?" He asked me what I was talking about. I answered, "We talked a few days ago that you would not smoke so often and would do everything so that I would not smell the cigarettes. But from the first moment you walked in, I could smell the strong odor of cigarettes. It was as if the smell came into the room first and then you." Liam said, "Honey, you're probably tired from babysitting. So you think I smell like that? Because I last smoked an hour ago and after that, I brushed my teeth in their odor-removing candy." I told him, "Darling, none of that helps, and I can still smell the stench. I have to go to another room with the baby." Liam got angry and said that I was getting fed up with him with my words, but there is nothing I can do about it. I had a little fight with Liam because I told him, if I continue to smell this stench, then I will have to sleep in the nursery separately from him. Liam thinks I'm being very dramatic about this situation. In fact, I am not lying, and I can smell the stench of cigarettes. Emma, how old is your husband? It seems as if Liam doesn't understand that women have a very high sensitivity due to harmonics after childbirth. When I was pregnant, I really didn't like the smell of coffee, so I forbade everyone in the house to drink coffee. My dad, who was visiting me at the time, complained that he couldn't get coffee in the kitchen in the morning. I said you can only drink coffee outside or in a cafe. I can't understand what was going on, but even through my sleep I could smell the smell of freshly brewed coffee. I felt sick from this smell. Sometimes I even had a headache. Only after I gave birth to my second son did the bad feeling that coffee was not pleasant disappear. So, your boyfriend needs to understand that there may be some disadvantages during pregnancy, and it's quite normal. In such situations, there shouldn't be any problems. Olivia, you've probably never been to a training course for new parents. Those courses explain very well what can happen during and after pregnancy. Of course, not everything is so easy during pregnancy. A friend of mine couldn't stand the smell of her dog, so while she was pregnant, My friends took their dog to my friend's brother. The problem is how your husband reacts to such a situation. Liam will never be pregnant, so he can't even come close to understanding what girls feel during pregnancy, and the fact that Liam is offended that you forbid him to smoke while you are pregnant is very immature of him. I hope it won't stop him from being a good dad. Noah, I feel sorry for the author of this story. Her husband must be a jerk who can't agree to stop smoking while his wife is asking him to. I don't know how Liam will behave in the future, but he should talk to someone experienced in these matters so that Liam understands the kind of dad and husband he needs to be. This is a very strange reaction from Liam to your request. Next story. I have been dating and living with my girlfriend Ava for about 2 years now. Our relationship with her is somewhat unconventional. Ava works as a manager in a high position. I have never been interested in this because Ava does not like to talk about her work. She works 5 days a week, and on weekends, Ava likes to go to the gym. We only see each other in the evenings and on weekends. Ava is a very nice girl, and I have never had any serious quarrels with her. Ava is the kind of girl who acts as a leader. Wherever she is, people trust her as much as possible. I am very pleased that my girlfriend is so cool. I think we might get married next year, if everything goes well. Ava's family is very nice to me, and we have a good relationship. Even last year, we celebrated Thanksgiving at Ava's parents' house. I like my girlfriend's brother. He is a very witty guy who likes to play the guitar. 3 days ago, I felt that my vision started to lose its quality, and my eyes sometimes felt blurry. I've never had anything like this before, so I was a little scared. I decided to go to an eye clinic. That was 20 minutes from my house. I decided to take a taxi because I was scared to take the car. On the way, I asked my sister to come with me. Because I am a synthetic person, it is easier for me to go through something when I have someone from my family with me. Thank God that my sister Isabella gave her son to my mother and was free during this period of time. When I went to the doctor's office, my sister Isabella arrived just then. I sat down for a checkup and the doctor asked me to look at me through a special device. Then he did his own examination by shining a flashlight in my eyes. The doctor said that I had the initial stage of cataracts. At that moment, I was very tense and scared. My grandmother had something similar, and it was very unpleasant. The doctor said that I could go to another clinic where I would be admitted without a clue at his personal request. I was somewhat grateful to him for that. After all, my stress was already through the roof. So together with Isabella, we went to another clinic in her car. The operation did not last long. I stayed in the clinic until the evening. The doctor gave me special eye pads because I needed to give my eyes a rest for a few days. My sister drove me home and took me to my room. I don't know what would have happened if my sister hadn't been there. My sister was with me a little bit, but she left by the time my girlfriend got home from work because it was Tuesday. When Ava came into the room, she was cheek by jowl with me. I started telling her what happened to me that day. Ava said I was a fool not to tell her about it. I said, "Honey, you're very busy at work. I didn't want to distract you. I know you have a meeting every Tuesday, so my call might have been bad timing." Ava said it didn't matter what day or time. I had to tell her. Ava was also angry that I was so selfish for choosing to call my sister instead of the girl I want to marry. I apologized to Ava for not telling her, but she said that she was upset with me and that she needed to think about it for a while. Even though I was the victim, I feel like a jerk for not thinking about my girlfriend's feelings and calling my sister first. To tell the truth, I just didn't know what to do, and only one idea came to mind. My mom said that she was very worried about me and that I shouldn't be offended by my girlfriend. She was just in shock, and that's why Ava reacted the way she did. My mom supported me and it improved my morale. A few days passed and Ava talked to me, but I noticed that she was sad. Ava says that everything is fine, and it has nothing to do with me. My girlfriend took care of me for a few days, but it feels like it was without love. James, dude, what's wrong with you? How can you feel guilty that your girlfriend has such a weird reaction? I understand that your girlfriend is cool, and everyone wants to hang out with her, and it's important for Ava to be successful everywhere. But in matters of health and life, it's just ridiculous. Your girlfriend should say, "Thank you to Isabella for agreeing to come to your clinic and be there for you. It would have been trivial if it wasn't for your sister. You had to stay overnight in that clinic to give your eyes some rest from the surgery. I don't know if your girlfriend would have agreed to come to the clinic to pick you up." You should think about the meaning of your relationship with Ava. If you have a girlfriend for the sake of social status, it's a shame. You should have a girlfriend who is willing to give you her time, even when it is difficult or inconvenient. Otherwise, how are you going to marry her if you're not even ready to call Ava and tell her you're going to the doctor? I probably have a better relationship with my ex than you do with your girlfriend. Sophia, I really agree with your girlfriend. I can imagine my reaction if I came home and saw my boyfriend in bandages. My first questions would be, what happened? Why wasn't I notified sooner? If people are in a relationship, they should know a lot more about each other. If something much worse happened to you, wouldn't you also not call your girlfriend? With all due respect to the author, this is the most rash thing you could do. Oliver, I think your girlfriend became evil because you didn't put her first among other people. It's like you hurt her pride, and now Ava is wondering if you value her well enough to be with you. Even in this situation, Ava is thinking about her own importance, not your health. Maybe you don't have the best relationship with her because you don't like each other. Well, think about it. You're afraid to call your girlfriend, even when you're on your way to the doctor and your girlfriend is in contact with you only a few times a week, and only when it's beneficial for her. For Ava, you're just a person who can be a support for her dominance. Your relationship looks like Ava controls everything, and you just listen to her will. Have respect for yourself and have an honest conversation with Ava. Maybe you have very global problems. I lost my first wife for exactly the same reasons. So learn from someone else's experience and don't be a sheep. Now I want to tell a different story. I am now 31 years old and have a wife, Vivian, who is 29 years old. She and I still don't have children of our own, like our other relatives of the same age. I have a brother and a sister. My brother Caden has a pregnant wife who is 6 months pregnant. Also, I have my sister Kaylee, who is 2 years younger than me and has 2 children and a husband named Miles. I am in good contact with my family, and we sometimes see each other at family events. My wife also has a brother who has no family. 3 weeks ago, my wife Vivian finished her job and was given a big promotion. Vivian said that she has a big intention to make a celebration about it, but she said that she would not really like to see my sister because of her excessive behavior. My sister is a bit of a proud girl and sometimes jokes with Vivian and me that we still don't have children like her. Kaylee also often praises her eldest son in front of everyone, saying that he is the best. Kaylee says that her daughter is an angel that was never born. Sometimes it becomes impossible to talk to Kaylee because all the topics of conversation start to turn to her children. One minute you could talk to her about the best way to wash the car, and the next minute, Kaylee will start talking about how well her daughter assembles toys. It is for these reasons that Vivian asked me not to call Kaylee, or we could invite her family, but no kids and no talking about them. I said I would talk to them. I decided not to drag out the conversation with Kaylee because there were only 6 days left before the holiday. I still had to figure out what to get my wife. I met Kaylee at a cafe after my work. I told my sister my wife would love to see you and your husband at the celebration, but there is one small condition. Kaylee looked at me with interest and said, "If it's about a gift, I'll give you something." I said, "No, it's not about the gift. It's about your children, or rather, you specifically. You see, Kaylee, you're acting too proud, and my wife doesn't like it. My wife Vivian doesn't want you to start telling us how great your kids are and how all people suck in comparison." Kaylee started to object and say that she never does that. She just shows certain facts and says positive things about her children. I said, "Even so, but my wife said, if you do that at her party, then neither you nor your husband and children will be allowed to attend." Kaylee said we were being too picky about her. Then I stood up for my wife's interests. I told my sister, "Do you remember when we celebrated our dad's birthday? 1 hour later, all the guests were listening to your son brushing his teeth. and your daughter going to the bathroom on her own. Instead of everyone paying attention to our dad, they were listening to your stories, so I'm sure it will be the same this time. So please, listen to the terms and conditions from Vivian. My sister said she understood everything, and we could end this conversation. In the evening, I told Vivian that I was able to talk to my sister. Vivian was a little angry that I had allowed her to come at all, but I assured my wife that if Kaylee came, she would not be with the children. Vivian said, but that doesn't guarantee that Kaylee won't ruin the party with her stories. The next day, I got a call from my mother, who was furious and told me that I was a disgusting brother who, for his own reasons, did not allow the family to be together. I started to tell my mom that it was not my personal whim, but I only passed on my wife's words to Kaylee. My mom said that I should immediately apologize to my sister and not allow her to come with the children or talk about children. After all, you will soon become parents yourself, and you need to listen to other people's experiences. I told my mom that right now Vivian and I are not interested in listening to other people's experiences, so not having Kaylee at the party is not so bad. My mom told me not to act tough and to solve this situation. After all, Kaylee calls her almost every hour and tells her how bad her brother is. Our holiday passed without my sister and her family. Because of this, my whole family is angry with me and Vivian. They think I could have settled everything between the women and made a good atmosphere. My sister Kaylee says I'm a stupid man who didn't want to solve anything. My mom is angry with me because she had to listen to everything from my sister. My wife said I did the right thing, and she is very happy with me. My wife's brother said that I was like a rebel. I went against the opinion of the whole family. For the comfort of my wife, we laughed at this, although it was true. I have no plans to apologize to my sister because I don't think it would be appropriate to do so, and I don't see any fault on my part. Sophie, your sister Kaylee, is doing something really nasty. She seems like the kind of person you don't want to be around. I guess everyone has someone they know that you see on the street and try to walk past them to avoid contact, because you know that if you stop and start talking, it will be the most disgusting minutes of your life. It is difficult to explain to such people that you are not interested in talking about such topics. The main thing for them is to say what they think, and the rest is not important to them. If Kaylee is your close relative, she should respect your family's decision, not start throwing a tantrum and blaming you or your wife. Every house has its own rules and wishes. Your sister should have decided this issue with you and Vivian alone without third parties. But the author's sister is so hysterical that she decided to complain to her mother about her older brother. Such methods are only relevant for children, not for adult women and men. Sawyer, my brother, had an ex-wife who was always bothering everyone and was very annoying. It was really hard to talk to her. When I told her I was going out on business, she would always ask where I was going and why. It annoyed me so much that I once yelled at her. I can only praise the author for being so restrained and not yelling at his sister or blaming her. I don't understand why you or your wife Vivian would invite your siblings at all. If it's your wife's holiday, then your relatives are not required. I mean, you could have gathered your family, invited just a few friends, and maybe a few colleagues. I think it was more valuable for this group to have a celebration than for your sister, who has only her flawless children on her mind. If you had done this right away, you would have avoided all conflicts and been happy. However, these words do not change the fact that your sister is a stupid, selfish person. My next story. My family will celebrate the new year at my grandmother's house. Because it has 2 floors and a lot of space, there are a lot of people in the family. So every holiday is like gathering a bunch of ants. Almost the whole family comes from America for the global holidays. It never bothered me, and I was happy to have so many relatives. In addition, they often brought various gifts. Now, I have been dating my boyfriend Jason for 8 months. I met him when I was walking with my friends in the countryside. On New Year's Eve, my mom and the other girls prepared a big table so that all the guests would not go hungry. There are several important traditions in our family that we respect. One of the main traditions is a fancy table. Another tradition is that every New Year's Eve, at 12 o'clock in the evening, we go outside as a family and throw snow or make various snow structures. Despite the fact that people are of all ages, no one minds playing with snow. My boyfriend was recently discharged from the hospital because of meat poisoning. Jason was in the hospital for 2 weeks and had to have his stomach pumped numerous times. It's a very disgusting procedure and not a pleasant experience. Because of this, Jason was banned from eating rodage for 1 month. So I cooked dietary meals for him, because if Jason tries to eat something fatty or meat, he will need to run to the bathroom to throw up. A few days before the holiday, I called my dad and told him I needed to talk to my mom. He told her that I wanted to have a few dishes prepared for the holiday that were not fatty. Then I talked to my mom in person and told her why I should make an exception and cook some light dishes. My mom said that she would have no problem with it, but that it would be a little more difficult with my grandmother. My grandmother loves fatty foods. No holiday table is complete without large portions of meat and dishes containing meat products. I went to my grandmother's house to explain the situation and discuss the list of dishes that could be prepared. When she heard that a few dishes would have to be made, like a light breakfast, she said, I wouldn't want to allow that because the New Year's holiday is important to me, and therefore it is even more important that all the guests can eat delicious food. I told her it wouldn't be a problem if we cooked a few dishes without adding meat or fish, but my grandmother was not satisfied at all. She began to argue that her distant relatives were coming, and it was important that they eat lots of delicious food and appreciate her talents. My grandmother asked me, what would happen if somebody tastes your boyfriend's food and doesn't like it? Because of that, I could ruin my reputation as a good cook. I told her that if we cooked 3 meatless dishes out of 22, it wouldn't be a big deal. But my grandmother stuck to her guns on this one. I told my mom about everything and she said that we would make a few dishes without our grandmother's knowledge. I was very happy about this because my boyfriend Jason could feel that his problems were shared by my family, not just me. When we were preparing the holiday meals, my mom asked me to stay with my grandmother and help her so that my grandmother wouldn't interfere with my mother's cooking without meat or fish. We succeeded, and by the end of the day, we had 90% of the dishes ready. On the day of the celebration, we put all the dishes on the table and started celebrating. It was a wonderful time we spent with our family. I thought I would have to cook my own meals at home and go to the celebration. However, at the end of the party, one of the guests still took a dish cooked without adding salt and meat. My cousin complained to his mother that not all the dishes were tasty. That's how my grandmother found out that there were dishes on the table that she didn't like. After the celebration, my grandmother yelled at my mother and me for bringing unpalatable food to the festive table. We tried to prove to her that we wanted to keep one family member healthy. My grandmother said that we were 2 thoughtless people who were to blame for her reputation being damaged today. My mom said to ignore what my grandmother because she was old and didn't understand anything. But I was very upset that my old loving grandmother could be so mean. Was my behavior with my mom really so bad towards our grandmother? Braille, why on earth is your grandmother the main cook? Is it just because the house where you are celebrating is hers? If one person has health problems, it is logical to make concessions and let her cook a few dishes that will be suitable for the sick person. It would really be a good support for your boyfriend. I'm sure he would be happy if you told your boyfriend, Jason, my family has decided to cook some meals for you so that you can recover faster. This guy's respect for your family has gone through the roof. But because of your grandmother's antics, you can't expect that respect from Jason. Of course, it's great to have a big and tasty table, but you can't blame your grandmother for helping you prepare a few dishes for your boyfriend. Not all people like to eat fatty foods, so I can assume that the dishes your mom cooked could have been suitable and liked by other guests. Your grandmother shouldn't have been so mean about it. Madeline, what's wrong with cooking for your boyfriend separately for the holiday? I wonder how you would have gotten out of this situation without your mom. I agree that your grandmother was a little too bad with you. She is very concerned about her status and reputation, but there are some important reasons for that. You shouldn't have argued with your grandmother. She's not young anymore, and she probably should have given you a break. But you decided to argue with your grandmother and prove that you need to have food. on the table that has little or no taste. With this explanation, I can understand your grandmother. In the end, what she feared happened, and it was all because of your stubbornness and the fact that you dragged your own mother into your affairs. A story that really surprised me. This adventure happened to me 3 weeks ago. My uncle Benjamin has a little nephew, Elijah, who is 7 years old and has just started school. Since I am now 22 years old and came to visit my uncle, he asked me for a favor. His kid was going to start school on Monday. Benjamin asked me to help him with his lunch and his homework. So Benjamin wants to stay in his cabin in the woods for a few days. I have no problem with that because my work is remote and I have no time constraints. I didn't have to go to college this week, so I could help my uncle. I get along well with Elijah and often play his games with him. On Sunday night, Elijah and I sat down to make some items that he couldn't make himself. As it turned out, Elijah has a hard time solving math problems, so I tried to help him with them. When we were getting ready in the morning, I asked Elijah what Benjamin was feeding him. The boy said that most often it was some kind of cereal or pasta with meat or mushrooms. I thought it was not a complicated breakfast, so I made Elijah some toast, fried an egg, and poured him some tea. There are 2 lunch options at Elijah's school. Either you take it with you or you can buy a portion. I made some sandwiches for Elijah and poured him a bottle of delicious tea that my mom had given me. In the morning, I took Elijah to school and went back home to do my own thing. At 10 o'clock in the afternoon, I received a message from Elijah that they wanted to talk to me. I was a little surprised, but I gave my permission for them to call me. 3 minutes later, I received the call, and when I picked up the phone, I heard a man's voice. As it turned out later, it was one of the parents of my nephew's classmate. The man started saying that Elijah had brought some very strange food to school. After all, he usually has whole meals in his bowl, not 2 sandwiches and a small bottle of tea. I told the man that I was Elijah's uncle and that I had just picked up what was in the fridge this morning. Let's call this guy Lucas. So Lucas starts saying that I'm poisoning my own nephew and not giving him food. I said, "Man, open your eyes, the kid came to school with food, not an empty bowl, so what's the problem?" Lucas started to panic and said he would complain to the kid's real father. I asked him to calm down and told him that I would handle the situation. I got ready to go to Elijah's school and buy a quick breakfast at the cafe on the way. When I'd brought breakfast, Lucas was waiting for me in the dining room where Elijah was sitting. This guy started hitting on the breakfast I brought because it had a burger and a small portion of meat on the side. Lucas said that this amount of meat is not healthy for a 7-year-old. I told him, "Look, this is my nephew, and I bought him delicious food that I would eat myself. So now let's go because I have things to do." I walked away even though Lucas was shouting something at my back. The same day, I received a call from my uncle. He started asking me what happened between me and that man. After all, that guy Lucas was an old friend of Benjamin's. I told him that I had given Elijah a lunch, and the man noticed and said that the lunch was not like that. I brought a new lunch, but this time Lucas said it was crap. So I didn't listen to him and walked away. My uncle told me not to pay attention to what Lucas said, but he asked me not to give such bad lunches to Elijah anymore. Between me and my uncle, the whole situation was resolved, but Lucas didn't stop there and started complaining to my nephew's teacher about me. I have never understood why people stick their noses so deep into other people's business. Charlotte, I'm just on the cheek. I have a daughter of my own who is 8 years old. We have a similar system at school with food. I can cook anything for my daughter, and no one has ever told me that I am giving something bad to my daughter, although I can also give her sandwiches or just plain porridge to school. In general, who should care what children eat? It's cool that Lucas is so attentive, and maybe one of the children really does eat badly, and that family needs social assistance. But does Lucas go around and look into each child's mouth to make sure that the food is good? You should find out how Lucas found out about the quality of the food you gave your nephew. I wonder what he saw wrong with sandwiches and tea. Primary school children don't study for 8 hours and don't need large portions. Maybe Lucas was just trying to get at someone, so you were the victim. Mia, the worst thing about parenthood is not the children, but the other parents. Everyone has their own principles and concepts of how to raise a child, but adjusting other people's children to your standards is a very bad idea. It leads to the fact that no one will respect you from other parents. When I read this story, I lost all respect for this guy, because Lucas is an example of a dad who acts superior and thinks he has the right to pry into other people's children. I have never liked such people for their stupid behavior. If I were you, I would ask Lucas to show you what his child is eating, and then in front of everyone he would say that it's crap, and even my dog wouldn't eat it. Maybe then Lucas would think about his behavior. In any case, it's not your fault. If you would have sent Elijah without food, then you are an asshole, but you didn't.